Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. First off, welcome for coming, everybody. I know your time is very valuable, and I respect that, and I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. So, first things first, if you scroll down below the video, there's the chat box. So first thing, turn off the chat roll volume. If you look down there, there's a mute button. That way, if you mute it, that way you won't hear the ringing every time somebody comes in or leaves the chat box. You won't mute me, you just mute the chat box. The second thing is, if you don't like the chat box being down below the video, you can pop it out and then move it around the screen wherever you'd like. The other thing is, make sure that you're live. On the bottom of this video screen, there should be a red dot with the word live next to it. If you don't see that, go ahead and click refresh and then click play again. Another thing is, help a friend. You know, if you have a friend that you think would really benefit from hearing this webinar, go ahead and share it and see if we can get them on. Who am I? My name is Carl Piltz. I'm the founder of nutritionoftheedge.com and certified health coach. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about what I do to help people, specifically entrepreneurs. So why are we here? It's not for punch and pie. First off, you are in the right place if you're an entrepreneur. What we're about to talk about is specifically applicable to entrepreneurs, and you're going to see why in a few minutes. Second, if you are an action taker. As entrepreneurs, we know that if we want to get something done, usually what we have to do is learn a new skill, but then we have to take action. So if you're that type of person, then you are in the right place. The third thing is, if you want to give yourself an advantage over the vast majority of your competition, guarantee that almost none of your competition has ever heard what you're about to hear right now. So let's start with the current state of affairs. Right now, there is a physical, or more specifically, a biological barrier which is limiting your achievement. It is limiting how high you can kick up your productivity and your energy and your focus. There is a physical barrier. And if you don't take care of this physical barrier, then you will never be able to realize your full potential. And that means how high your business can be taken, and your life, your productivity, everything. If you don't take care of what we're about to talk about, then it will never be physically possible for you to reach your full potential. So let's start off with a question. In a typical 8-hour workday, you know, maybe a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes don't work full 8 hours, but let's say you do. How many of those 8 hours are you able to put yourself in the zone? And by in the zone, I mean that insanely productive state where you're just ripping through your to-do lists and the quality of the work that you're doing is amazing. How many hours out of those 8 hours can you get yourself into that place? Go ahead and type it in down the chat. And if you just joined us, make sure that you scroll down below the video screen and join the conversation in the chat. I think it's a really good idea for us to get an idea of where we stand in relationship to our peers, so that we can understand where we need to make some adjustments and where we're leading the pack. So, okay, we have some shy people out there. Normally, if you ask 10 people, what 8 of them will probably tell you is between 2 to 3 hours. Out of an 8-hour workday, it is very good if you can get yourself into that super productive state for 3 hours out of those 8 hours. Now, what if we could increase that? How much different would your day, how much different would your life be if you could increase the time that you spend in your most insanely productive state? Well, the first thing that would happen is you'd be able to get more done in less time. And that means you could spend more time with your friends and family. You know, what would that feel? How would that feel if you could spend more time watching your kids grow up, or spend more time taking vacations with your friends and making memories? Also, if you can get more done in less time, you could generate more, you can get more work done overall, and that would mean more revenue generated for you. How much revenue? That we're going to talk about in a little bit, because since we're talking to specifically entrepreneurs, the amount of money that you can increase, the amount of revenue that you can increase to by learning this is insane. We're also going to talk about product quality. When you learn these concepts, you're going to see how they directly correlate to the quality of the work that you do. It also correlates to your ability to manage other people. A lot of us are managing staff nowadays, and this is really a huge secret to being able to be the best manager and build the best business as possible. It also has a huge impact on your ability to learn. How fast you learn information is directly tied to what you're about to learn. What we're talking about is the number one secret to getting into the ultimate state of energy and focus. The number one secret to getting into our most productive state, or what we call in the zone. In order to get the most done, and in order to build our businesses the best that they can possibly be, we need to be the most insanely productive person that we can possibly be. We need to spend as much time in the zone as possible. And that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about energy, focus, and productivity specifically. We're going to learn where they come from and how to create them. And the way that we're going to do this is by learning a little bit of brain chemistry. Terms like serotonin and dopamine and adrenaline and endorphins, we've all kind of heard these terms in popular culture. We're going to learn exactly what they are and how to use them, because these are the keys. And that's the case because, one example of how strong these brain chemicals are is because this is the basis for how antidepressant drugs work. These pharmaceutical companies are using these same concepts right now to make antidepressants because they have a huge effect. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And at the end, we're going to talk about the Productivity Masterclass, which is an online video course that we offer. This is not a sales seminar. This is going to be an educational seminar. You're going to learn where energy, focus, and productivity come from. And you're going to learn how to build it and how it's destroyed so you can avoid it. At the end, we're going to talk about this course that makes implementing it very easy on you. But what we're really going to learn is how to take that restrictor plate off of your brain. And what I'm going to show you is this is the limiting factor for your productivity and your business growth and your income growth. Okay, so a little bit about me and my family. My name is Carl, and this is a picture of my beautiful wife, Molly. We're actually expecting here in July, so we're getting really excited about that and babyfying the whole house. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and my original background was in electrical engineering. Here's me with a bunch of buddies. But one of the reasons that I bring up this picture was because take a look at my face. Growing up, I was never severely overweight, but I was also never really extremely lean. I always did pretty good. So take a look at the shape of my face. I want you to see something over the next couple of pictures. Whoops, thought I took that one out. Well, as you can see, I'm always friendly to the environment. So here's a picture of me after college, about a year and a half. This is after I took a corporate job where I was traveling a lot. I got into sales. And so I was traveling all over the country. I was in airplanes, hotel rooms, all that kind of stuff, taking customers out to dinner, out for drinks, all that stuff that comes with a job like that. And what you see here is my face is starting to round out a little bit. And here's about 6 months later, and you can tell even more. My chin is starting to disappear. And so this is starting to show the effect on my body that this lifestyle was having. Man, if my cousin Leah on the right knew I was using this picture, she would kill me. So here is me at my biggest. I love this picture. Here's me at my biggest. At one point, I was 226 pounds. And for a guy who's 5'9", that's a lot of weight. I mean, look at my gut sticking out. That was massive. Looking back, I can't really believe it. But the weight was really getting to be a problem because my clothes weren't fitting. I was having to buy new clothes. But really, to me, the weight wasn't the number one problem. To me, the number one problem was the mental aspects. And when I started getting really big, I was always a happy person growing up. But as I got bigger, I started noticing that my mind was functioning a lot worse. I started to fall into pretty severe bouts of depression. And I got to be, with my job, it was really stressful. I started to have really almost anxiety attacks. It was awful. I would get really nervous. When I would give a presentation in front of 100 customers, that could be a really nerve-wracking experience. At first, when I first took the job, I had no problem with it. But all of a sudden, I started to get a lot more nervous, and doing these presentations was getting a lot more difficult. Really, when you're living a life through, in a depressed and anxious and nervous state, life is really not pretty. My outlook was dark, it was gloomy. Life was just not fun. And one of the worst parts is that I found that I couldn't concentrate. There seemed to be about a 30-minute limit to the amount of time that I could focus at any one point. So reading books took forever because I would read for a half an hour, and then I had to take a break for a half an hour to an hour. It became really difficult to learn new material because it took forever. And I had zero energy. I wanted to get out and go to the gym. I wanted to get up and do all kinds of projects. I was always an entrepreneur in the back of my head. I wanted to start all these businesses off to the side, but I just had no energy. So I wasn't getting everything that, not near what I wanted to get done. I wasn't getting it done. And really, one of the worst parts is I started to get scared for my job, because all these mental aspects, the nervousness, the depression, the no energy, the can't focus, that really made it difficult to do my job. I wasn't as good. My presentations weren't as good. I wasn't as well prepared, and just my productivity was terrible. And I started to get really afraid for my job, because this was severely affecting the result that I was getting and what my boss was seeing from me. So I was getting really scared. So what I decided to do was I went back to school. I started reading a couple of books about how nutrition influences your weight and your mental capabilities. And I ended up going back to school to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York. And that's where I got certified as a health coach. And this is me now. Now I tend to sit around 172, 173. I tend to feel the best when I'm in the low 170s. Okay, so now I feel fantastic. I have a lot of energy, all that stuff. But really, what matters the most to me is now my energy levels, my ability to focus, my overall general productivity has gone through the roof. And that's what really made me curious. When I see how well that turned around, that was when I dove even deeper into this. I started finding all the researchers who were talking about anything that has to do with nutrition, biochemistry, and your focus, your energy, and your productivity. And I really dove into their research. So what did I learn? I learned really that the key to success in our business, in everything in our lives, is understanding how our brain works. And more specifically, the mix of brain chemicals that are in our brain. So the basic question that we have to start with is, what is a neurotransmitter? A neurotransmitter, very simply, is a brain chemical that makes our neurons talk to each other. You see, our neurons, our brain is basically a big electrical web with electric signals firing from neuron to neuron. And what neurotransmitters are is they kind of allow those electric signals to pass from one neuron to the other. So that's really all you need to know, that we don't need to get any more technical. But what you do need to remember is the more neurotransmitters that we have, the more brain activity that we have, and therefore the better thinking that we have. This is the basis for everything that we're going to talk about tonight. So let's talk about these neurotransmitters for a second, figure out which ones they are. The first one that we're going to talk about is probably actually the most important, serotonin. Serotonin is really our natural antidepressant. When our serotonin is high, we feel calm, confident, optimistic. Serotonin is really the brain chemical that makes us ready for anything. The second group of brain chemicals, are adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine. And we've heard of at least two of these. These are what we call our action and focus brain chemicals. These are the brain chemicals that directly control how much mental energy we have and how well we are able to focus. and also ties into our motivation. When these brain chemicals are high, that's when we get super productive. And then there are our endorphins. Our endorphins are responsible for us feeling, exhilarated, feeling the rush, getting excited. Really, our endorphins are what allow us to enjoy life. So here are the three main groups of brain chemicals that we're going to talk about. When our serotonin is high, we are confident. We're ready to go do whatever we want to do. When our adrenaline and dopamine are high, then we have all the energy and focus we need to actually get that done. And when our endorphins are high, that's when we can look at what we've done and really enjoy it. So the mix of these brain chemicals, them being high, is really the magic mix that we want in order to get everything that we want to done, and then also enjoy it. These brain chemicals are the key to really pumping up your business and your life as much as you want, then to increasing your ability to have energy and focus as high as you want. These are the keys. They're also, let's talk about how powerful these brain chemicals are for a second. They're so powerful that these are the brain chemicals that pharmaceutical companies manipulate with their antidepressant drugs. The way antidepressant drugs work is based in these principles. So let's talk for just a second about antidepressant drugs and how they work. The first thing I want to say is that it's a warning. If you're taking antidepressant drugs right now, do not stop taking them without medical or psychiatric supervision. Antidepressant drugs can have some wicked side effects, and up to and including suicidal thoughts. So if you're taking them right now, do not stop taking them without medical supervision. But the way antidepressant drugs work is by working, the vast majority of them work by manipulating serotonin. The most popular class of antidepressant drugs out there are what are called SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And basically the short of what happens is these brain chemicals like serotonin will be manufactured, which we'll go over in a second, and then it will circulate in your brain for a period of time, and then it will go dormant in a process called reuptake. And all these drugs do is block the reuptake. So they block these brain chemicals from going dormant. So it keeps them circulating in your brain longer. Okay? So really what we should take out of this is how powerful serotonin and these other brain chemicals are. Because if we can manipulate them, then we can take a depressed person and make them feel incredible. That's how powerful these brain chemicals are. So first, let's talk about how these neurotransmitters are made. Neurotransmitters, serotonin, endorphins, dopamine, adrenaline, they are all made from amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So when you have a piece of protein, like you have a piece of chicken or fish or steak or whatever, that piece of protein is a chain of amino acids strung together. So this chain is the B for chicken, and then each of these rings, these are amino acids. So tryptophan is an amino acid, glutamine, alanine, leucine, lysine. Those are all amino acids. And what happens when we eat them is when they're digested, our body breaks them down into individual amino acids. And then from there, they circulate in our bloodstream and they go all over our body to do different things, like build muscle and make blood. But a lot of these amino acids, they head up to our brain in order to make neurotransmitters. So which of these amino acids are responsible for making the brain chemicals that make us feel so good and energetic and focused? Well, the first one is tryptophan. Tryptophan will go up to your brain and combine with vitamins in order to make serotonin. So that's how we get the brain chemical that makes us feel awesome, energetic, optimistic, and confident. Tyrosine is another amino acid, which when that combines with vitamins, will make adrenaline and noradrenaline and dopamine. That's how we get our focus and mental energy. These are our focus and action brain chemicals. They come from tyrosine. Phenylalanine is another amino acid. When it combines with vitamins, that's what makes our endorphins. So that's what allows us to really enjoy what we're doing. Okay, so that's how those brain chemicals are made. So, but this can all get really confusing, all the names of the amino acids and the brain chemicals and all that. really, you don't have to worry about much. The only thing that you need to know is that all meat and dairy protein contains all of the important amino acids to make all of the brain chemicals that we want. Now, a note, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, grains and vegetables contain some protein, but they only contain certain combinations of those amino acids. They don't contain all of them. So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you need to make sure that you're combining your grains and vegetables right in order to get the right combination of all of them. Okay, but the main idea is if you eat enough protein and vitamins, because remember, the amino acids combine with vitamins to make the brain chemicals. If you eat enough protein and vitamins, then you will get the necessary amino acids to make these important brain chemicals. So that's it. Just eat protein and then we get everything that we need. That sounds pretty simple. Oops. There is a catch. And the catch is if we eat sugar and white carbohydrates. We sabotage our brain chemistry when we eat these foods. And by sugar and white carbs, sugar is anything, soda pop, candy, that kind of thing. By white carbohydrates, I mean white bread, white rice, white pasta, and all kinds of other stuff like that. So, and the reason is when we eat these foods, these carbs contain very little or no fiber. And because of that, they digest very, very quickly. And all carbohydrates, when they get digested, turn into sugar that goes into our blood. That's what they call blood sugar. And so if we eat a big bowl of pasta, that's a lot of carbs that get turned into blood sugar very quickly. And this is what causes a blood sugar spike. Now, what happens when we have a blood sugar spike is our pancreas releases insulin. And insulin's job is to bring our blood sugar back down to the appropriate level. Well, what happens is if after we keep eating foods like this and keep spiking and spiking and spiking our blood sugar, our pancreas starts overestimating how much insulin to release and releases too much. And it removes too much sugar, and it also removes too many amino acids, which results in no brain chemicals being formed. Now that was a lot. Let's go take a look at it a different way. Let's take a look at what happens when we eat a sugary meal. So here's a graph, and the horizontal axis is time. The vertical axis is our blood sugar level. And in between these two green dotted lines is the healthy blood sugar range that our body wants to maintain. So here is our blood sugar level coming down from our previous meal. So now it's getting a little bit low, and so we're getting hungry. And let's say that we eat a meal that's composed mostly of sugar and white carbohydrates. So because there is very little fiber in these carbs, they get digested very quickly. And so our blood, the amount of sugar dumped into our blood is a lot and very quickly. So our blood sugar spikes. Now our pancreas wants our blood sugar level to stay in between these green dotted lines. And so it releases insulin. And insulin will bring it back down into this level. But like I said, if we're doing this constantly, if we're constantly spiking our blood sugar, then our pancreas will overestimate how much insulin to release. It will release too much insulin and therefore remove too much sugar. And this is what's called a blood sugar crash. So insulin has removed too much sugar from your bloodstream, and coincidentally, it dumps that extra sugar into fat cells. So this is actually the #1 cause of weight gain in the world today, this exact process. So, but getting back to the mental aspect, when insulin removes all that sugar from our blood and dumps it into our cells, it also takes amino acids with it. You see, let's say we eat a burger and fries, a burger has meat in it, which contains the protein. It also has the bun and the fries, which are white carbohydrates. So when we digest the whole burger and fries, there are amino acids that are going up to our brain, waiting to make brain chemicals. But because of this blood sugar spike, insulin is now swiping those brain chemicals away from our brain. And so none of those amino acids make it into our brain to make these brain chemicals. So the result is that we don't get the brain chemicals that we need to feel fantastic. So as a result, we feel tired, unmotivated, depressed, negative. This is why people tend to have periods where they're just sluggish in between meals. 10:30 and 2:30, that's when people tend to feel like crap. And this is exactly why. It's tied to the meals that they ate previously. So what do we do in order for this not to be the case? The first thing is to eat enough protein. If we eat enough protein, then we'll get the amino acids that we need to build the brain chemicals that we want. Now, per meal, you should be looking at getting between 20 and 40 grams of protein per meal. Now, that depends where you fall in the 20 to 40. Depends on, if you're a man, you need more than a woman. If you're a bigger person, you need more than a smaller person. A small woman probably needs 20 grams of protein per meal. A larger man needs 40. Just as a note, when you're eating chicken or beef or pork, 7 ounces of basically any meat equals 39 grams of protein. So if you want to get 25 grams of protein, you should probably shoot for 4 ounces of meat per lunch and dinner. You can do the same thing at breakfast with eggs and milk. 3 eggs is about 20 grams of protein. And you can always do protein shakes and stuff like that. That makes it a whole lot easier. The second thing is to not eat sugar and white carbohydrates. Eat whole grains and vegetables instead. Whole grains and vegetables have a lot of fiber in them, and so they digest much slower. And so there is no blood sugar spike, and so there's no need for a whole lot of insulin. That way we avoid that whole spike and crash. That way, when we eat these whole grains alongside with protein, then we're getting all those amino acids into our brain that we want. The third thing is add healthy fats. Our appetite is completely regulated by fat. So when we eat fat along with our meal, that keeps us full. And it also slows the digestion of the carbs and the proteins. That way you have a long, steady supply of these brain chemicals for the next several hours. So you're not running out of them a couple hours after your meal. So those are the 3 things that we need to do. But this is the number one cause. This process is the number one cause of energy, focus, and productivity problems. It is the number one. It's the number one reason for why we can't spend as much time in our most productive state in the zone. It's why we can't spend as much time as we want in that place, is because of this reason right here. And really, this is the secret to unleashing our highest level of mental performance possible. And just by doing this, you'll be light years ahead of where you are right now. This is the number one factor. It's not the only factor, but it's the number one factor. Now, if you master all aspects of how your nutrition, how your diet, and your lifestyle choices affect your brain and your productivity, then you'll start to see huge benefits. That's where you're going to start to see that you're getting a lot more done in less time. So now you have a lot more time to spend with your friends and family, watching your kids grow up. It's a wonderful thing. You can also get more done overall, so you generate more revenue overall. You're also going to experience higher quality work. When your mind is functioning at the highest level possible, when you are extremely energetic and you are extremely focused, then the products and services that you're developing for your customers are going to be excellent. They're going to be so much better than they are right now. And when you put out better products and services, that's going to allow you to build better relationships with your customers. And that's what we all want, is very sticky audiences. You're also going to be a better leader. A lot of us are managing staff nowadays, whether they're virtual or in person. One of the things that's going to happen when your mind is functioning at the highest level possible is that your communications with your staff will get even better. A lot of the reasons that businesses are not running as efficiently as they could is because of miscommunications. Well, when your mind is functioning in tip-top shape, there will be less miscommunications. And as a result, you're going to build a better business because your business will be humming along on all cylinders. You're also going to be able to trust your own decisions. Managing your staff is really tied, how well you manage your staff is really tied to how well you can trust yourself. One of the things, if you've ever read Chris Ducker's book called Virtual Freedom, he talks about superhero syndrome. As entrepreneurs, we think that we are the best at every aspect of our business, but we need to hire staff in order to take over the tasks that we're not supposed to do. And in order to let go and trust yourself, you need to have high levels of serotonin, your confidence brain chemical. That equals confidence in yourself and in your decisions. You'll also be able to stop to not micromanage your staff. Hiring people is of no good if we're constantly over their shoulder, micromanaging everything that they do. And micromanaging is really a lack of trust in your own decisions. When your brain is functioning perfectly, then you'll be able to avoid all of this and really start spending your time where you're supposed to be. It's also going to improve your learning. When you have a mind that is crystal clear, indistractable, then the speed that you can learn new material is going to skyrocket. The speed of your reading books, the amount of information that you can process in a certain amount of time is going to go through the roof. And we all know that the growth of our business and the growth of us personally depends on our ability to learn new skills and learn new information. When you get your mind functioning at a tip-top level, then your ability to learn those new skills is going to skyrocket. So how much is all this worth? Let's throw some numbers up here. So let's say currently that as an entrepreneur, you earn $100,000 a year, and you do that while being able to spend 2 hours in the zone, in your most productive state. You can spend 2 hours out of every day there. What's possible if we were to increase that? What if we could double that? If we could double the amount of time that we spend in our most productive state, would we be able to double our income? What if we could triple it? Or what if we could quadruple it? Is this possible? Now look at these numbers, and what you should be asking yourself is, are these numbers reasonable? Now, if I was talking to your average person in a corporate job, I would say absolutely not. No way. But we are entrepreneurs. And what we do as entrepreneurs is we look to build businesses that are scalable. The scalability of these business models is what we are focusing on. And because of that, our ability to increase our income is orders of magnitude higher than the average person. So with that being the case, if we could take the amount of time that we are in our most productive state and we can double and triple and quadruple it, are these numbers reasonable? The answer is yes. The answer really is the sky's the limit. Also, how much is time with your family and friends worth? Forget about money for a second. How much time is it worth that where you could spend more time with your friends and family and watch your kids grow up? Now, if you don't, I think everybody's off.
Yeah, you lost with the entrepreneur slide.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I'm going to stop then.
If you were trying to record the whole thing.
No, not really.
I'll just wait. You might have cut and stuff and come back on. Stick around for all the meat, though.
Mm-hmm. Stick around for...
Who were you, sneaky person? You should go 2 slides ahead. You slowed down really well halfway through.
Halfway through? Yeah, I didn't know. That was going fast at the beginning.
Once you get into your content, you slowed down.
the hell is Bosco doing?
Like got back there and he's crawling along. I'm like, if I try to grab him, he's gonna make a big noise. So I just gotta like move everything and like let him go. I may have to like shut the door when we do these. I'm so sorry. I know it's being distracting. Like the best thing I could do is walk away from the problem. I think part of some of these too is just like when you start to get a whole bunch of people, it just feeds off itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like because there are 20 other people in there,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta have it too.